Soon after the COVID pandemic, the whole world desperately started looking for a powerful medicine called vaccine as a cure for COVID-19. The race began to develop vaccines. Scientists across the globe started working day and night to develop this powerful medicine. Among this huge competition to develop vaccines first, we heard many scientists saying that it would take more than a year to develop vaccines commercially. That was a bit scary looking at the situation. However, our scientists managed to pull it off in just 10 months. But what actually is a vaccine? What makes them so powerful? Why does it take so long to develop a vaccine? Since we all gonna receive it soon, it is important to know about it. Hi guys, I'm Faraz. Let's get started. Back in 18th century, when Europe was suffering from smallpox epidemic that existed for at least 3000 years, one of the greatest scientists of all time, Edward Jenner, injected the cowpox virus into a 13-year-old boy and demonstrated the immunity to smallpox. That was the very first scientific vaccination. How did he do that? Well, in order to understand vaccines, let's see how our immunity works. A pathogen is a bacterium, virus, parasite, or a fungus that can cause disease within the body. Each pathogen has several parts unique to that specific pathogen and the disease it causes. A subpart called antigen contains information such as surface shape of the pathogen, and it simulates immune response whenever the pathogen enters our body. Now, on the other hand, our body produces specialized Y-shaped protein called antibodies as a response to antigen and bind it over the antigen like a key over the lock to destroy the pathogen. These antibodies are soldiers of our immune system and are trained to recognize specific antigens. We have thousands of antibodies. Whenever the human body is exposed to a new antigen, it obviously takes time for our immune system to develop that specific antibody. In that meantime, the person can feel sick. Now, how vaccines help here? Well, vaccines usually contain weak or inactive parts of the pathogen, that is antigen, that triggers immune response within the body. This weakened version of antigen does not cause the disease generally, but it will prompt the immune system to respond as if the actual pathogen has entered the body and develop antibody against it. Once the antibodies are developed, it would remember the pathogen and would be ready to fight when the person gets infected actually. This makes the vaccine such a powerful medicine. Some vaccines need multiple doses like Covaxin and Covishield for COVID-19 to allow the production of long-lived antibodies and development of memory cells. Now, in order to understand why vaccine development takes such a long time, we need to have surface knowledge on how a vaccine is made. The first step would be determining the genetic sequence of the virus. You might have heard about DNA and RNA. These are genetic materials and made up of these four bases: adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. Genetic sequencing determines the order of these bases in the virus, that is the arrangement. The coronavirus has around 30,000 bases. Link for the genome record is in the description, you can go through it. The next step is to develop a vaccine using different strategies. These strategies will include inactivating the virus so that it won't cause the actual infection, pull out some specific components of the virus instead of complete virus and use them as a vaccine. The third step would be clinical trials among the healthy volunteers to study the effects and side effects of vaccine. This is followed by the second round of clinical trials in larger population who are at high risk of infection like healthcare workers. The final step would be vaccination approval for widespread use. The vaccination shall be approved by the government authority for its commercial use. All these steps would obviously take time. But how did we manage to pull it off in just 10 months? Well, the very first factor was knowledge sharing. Identifying suitable antigen and testing them in animals to investigate their safety can take years of time, but in this case, the first COVID-19 antigen were mapped within hours of coronavirus genome being made public by Chinese scientists. The next factor was funding. Since there was huge global demand, the public and private cash started pouring into the efforts to develop vaccines. Then comes the parallel trials. Generally, clinical trials would happen one after the other. Phase 1 safety trials in small number of people, followed by phase 2 trials in large groups. This caused delay due to grant application, negotiation with the manufacturers, and recruiting participants. But in this case, the trial phases were conducted parallelly, as social media played a role in recruiting large number of volunteers. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that it is possible to develop and test multiple safe vaccines against new virus in less than a year, both in terms of ending the pandemic and developing a vaccine against other disease. But only if we remember the lessons we learned during this extraordinary period. That's all from my side. Please do share if you found it useful. Thank you and take care.